Hello friends and welcome to the Weekend Catch-Up Club, the coffee morning show brought to you live to Twitch every Saturday and available later on demand at youtube.com/gamertagged and podcast services. Joining me, he's come back everybody, my favourite co-host of all time, episode 2 as co-host. Jamie, how you doing?
Not too bad, mate. Not too bad, you? Always a little bit sad when the show actually starts because then I have to stop dancing to the intro theme.
I know. We talk about that every single week. It's just so good. We should do maybe like just a 1 hour dance-a-thon of just the theme tune.
I don't think anyone wants to watch me dance for 10 minutes, let alone an hour.
Well, it's just a shoulder shimmy, really, because we're just in a little window. So we don't have to see the feet moving like Michael Flatley, river dancing under the desk.
Oh, God, my feet move more like, I don't know, Michael Barrymore. I'm trying to think of someone who doesn't dance. I think he danced. Never mind.
I don't think he dances at all anymore. Not. I mean, he used to, but not anymore.
No.
Sadly.
Michael. I'll think of a Michael who can't dance. It'll come to me.
Michael Bublé, I don't think is much of a dancer. He's a crooner, but I don't think he's much of a dancer. You know,
that is true.
He just chews the microphone on stage, and with his velvety voice.
He does the soothing tones of Bublé. This turned into a Radio 4 show, maybe? Now a little soothing Bublé for you.
Sponsored by Michaels Who Can't Dance.
That's a talent agency that I think would struggle, but I'd like to see them try and get off the ground.
Oh my goodness. You know it's early in the morning when we just open up with complete and utter gibberish, right?
Caffeine's still kicking in, that's the thing.
Because last week we the first show back in the new year, we opened up talking about your loungewear and Guinness and Emperor penguins and everything, and now we're talking about Riverdance and
Which I did have a friend of mine actually messaged me on Discord and said, I loved the show this morning, particularly enjoyed the 20 minutes given over to talking about dressing gowns and pajamas. And I replied, I was like, you take the piss, but they were like, no, I actually really enjoyed the conversation about dressing. I've been looking for a new dressing gown, I think I might get one. I was like, okay. Hashtag not sponsored, but...
Yeah, I actually meant to ask about your dressing gown. Does it have a gold trim by any chance or anything like that? Because you know the logo has a gold harp for the Guinness. Does it have anything?
It's very monochromatic, much like me. So that's definitely my aesthetic. So this is about the most colour I ever wear, and that's because it's got a little bit of purple on it and red on my Gengar.
Representing the Pokemon, though. Kudos.
Oh yeah, it's the most comfortable T-shirt I own. And my gamer tag T-shirts are all in the current load of washing, which I was quite distressed about this morning when I realised. So.
Don't worry, I would never make you wear like corporate branding for this show. You can wear whatever you like.
I like my corporate branding though. I love my gamer tag tees. They're awesome because the two that I picked out of the Doom-esque and the Pokemon-esque, two games very close to my heart. So
yeah, they're really good. They are really.
And
good.
I think the Pokemon style font one that I've got maybe the only splash of colour that I actually wear because it's a grey T-shirt with yellow writing. I think that's about the only T-shirt I own that isn't black base.
I'm quite proud of the merch that we have. I've even just dropped a link in the Twitch chat for our video listeners and live viewers so they can check out some merch if you are so inclined. But anyway, I'm not going to do a hard plug. Check it out if you want and help support the channel. That'd be lovely. So thank you for that little promo there, Jamie. That was wonderful. That's so unexpected.
I know. We didn't even get that one in rehearsal. That was just off the
we did
rehearsal. Could you imagine?
Do we rehearse this stuff?
No.
What?
No, I don't think I've ever rehearsed anything that I've done, ever. The closest I come is maybe making a note about something and then forgetting it during the show. So.
Speaking of the show, Mr. Jamie, we had our very first piece of reader mail come in after last week's show. I find it fascinating, and I'm not going to take it personally, but I was doing the show for like a whole year and a half, and no reader mail, and then here's you blasting into the co-host chair first week, and we get reader mail. What is that all about?
I mean, let's be fair. What that's all about is never ever underestimate Alan's desire to troll me at every stage of his life. But we do have a reader mail. It's just a short letter from an enthusiastic listener, naming no Allens. But
let's hear it.
And it says, "Dear Sirs, I listened with interest during your most recent broadcast as you listed in great detail and with much enthusiasm your favourite titles of the past year. However, I was quite shocked and... God, I'm doing my points of view voice. However, I was quite shocked and surprised at your omittance of Too Human. I can only assume this was an oversight, as broadcasters of your experience must be aware of the importance of the inclusion of this title. When a title such as Too Human is gifted upon us... It is quite obvious for any competent games journalist, and he put that very deliberately, that it transcends release date windows and is always considered a recent release. Without Too Human, many of the titles you listed just simply wouldn't be. Its importance and relevance to any debate about a time period's release becomes null and void without a prominent and heartfelt show of appreciation towards it. Indeed, how can we praise good games now without acknowledging the giant whose shoulders they stand on? I look forward to the correction and apology that is inevitable from you both. I understand that mistakes happen, but we must always be careful to give thanks to those that laid the groundwork. Begrudgingly yours." I can't believe I'm about to read his sort of Laird Al.
Laird Al. Oh my goodness.
Laird Al.
Wow. Well, it was quite eloquently written, I have to say. Like, kudos to Al there.
It was, and he didn't even get me to write it for him for once, so that's...
Normally it's at gunpoint and you just have to sign it. Right? Signing a confession.
Dictated but not read should be at the bottom of a lot of our stuff.
So my understanding, because I haven't played Too Human before, is obviously like the game of all time from what Alan is, listener, viewer Alan is pitching here. But my understanding is that the game itself is an oversight, not that our disregarding of it is an oversight. I believe
Too Human it holds a place in infamy for me, because I at this point genuinely don't even know if Alan really likes the game that much, or if it's just such a running joke that he's committed to. But I know he does own. I don't know how many copies, but it's in the double digits. There's at least 13 at last count, I think, because he started rescuing them from the wild.
I was going to say, is he the only one that's been buying them? Like, all of those purchases are just him?
He may well be, because, of course, was it Epic? EA. No, EA did actually... all copies have been destroyed. All extant copies were actually shredded. Oh, yeah!
That's right. I remember hearing the case about it. Yeah.
So there was a whole thing. I mean, I'm waiting for them to just drop a canister on Alan at this point and just wipe out the last surviving stockpile.
Napalm, the part of Edinburgh that he's in.
Yeah, just wipe him out. But yes, it is a game for which he has a lot of love, and which I played for about an hour when it came out and hated every second of it. So... maybe one day I'll give it a... Well, I can't give it another shot. It doesn't exist anymore unless I want to raid Alan's Too Human shed.
I don't even know. It may be a case of like he doesn't let them out. Like, he doesn't loan them out, but he will invite you round to sample the greatness, like setting eyes on the Holy Grail. You know.
It's like this is a deep cut. It's like governmental records in the EU. You can go there and read them, but you cannot take them off the premises. Not sure why I know that, but that's what it is.
Do you have to wear like cotton gloves and stuff when handling the disc and everything as well?
Each one's in its own individual mahogany inlaid case with bulletproof glass, and it's like that scene from the start of, I think it's National Treasure. Or National Treasure 2, I forget, but where the Declaration of Independence, if you go too near it, it just gets retracted and sunk into a vault 60 miles below the Earth's surface.
God, I want that to be true in Alan's gaming mansion. Yeah, I hope that is so true.
I may actually have to build him a Too Human display case at some point.
An altar as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, candles and... Fuck, that game, just... No.
R.I.P. I mean, It probably could be good. But actually, this is now the topic of the show. Clearly, Too Human is the topic of the show.
Unfortunately,
I think it sounded like it could have been absolutely awesome. It was like the mythology, but like Norse mythology on the backdrop of like hard sci-fi, and it could have been a really cool mashup. And what's interesting is actually going to be a cute little segue into our first topic of the show. I can't believe I've managed to work this in and get it to work. But like the Norse sci-fi like setting of Too Human was actually one of the early concepts for what a new God of War could have been. If you watch the documentary Raising Kratos, and they're talking about what should we do to reinvent Kratos and stuff, you can see some concept art, and there's very much a science fiction like concept art kind of cluster on the wall. And I'm thinking, oh, that could have been really interesting if they went like full sci-fi with a God of War direction. I don't know if it was Norse mythology and sci-fi at the time, but it was definitely like sci-fi, and it looked like it could have been absolutely awesome.
It's
they went in obviously
good concept.
Other direction.
Yeah, it's a great. I mean, it's a concept that's worked in. I mean, comics have done it, and literature's done it, and games have done. You know, the updating of things, and it could work. Well, I mean, I'm a big fan of obviously a huge comic book fan, and there's a lot of indie comics and things from over the years and smaller imprints and stuff that I like. And one of the it's not really indie, but one character I've really got a lot of love for, that got away from me there, is Phantom from Defenders of the Earth. It's not really indie. I was trying to think of, outside the main, like, sort of DC, Marvel, these are the Justice League, these are the Avengers type groups. But I always loved Phantom. And obviously Phantom was, the jungle and the I want to say like the 30s to 50s and all, everyone wearing khaki and an awful lot of fighting on docks next to big boxes. And then there's that animated series, I don't know if you watched it as a kid, I did Phantom 2099 or Phantom 2030, Phantom 20 something.
Right.
And it's Phantom in the future, and he's got these two batons that fire lasers, and everyone has horrendously elongated legs and little tiny torsos, which if that's the vision of the future, but
skinny jeans as well. That's the vision of the future.
The skinniest, no circulation to the feet at all. So, but yeah, it's something. It would be interesting with something like God of War, which I've shamefully not played, but because it was always PlayStation previously. But it'd be interesting to take that and that power set of Kratos and that skill set of Kratos, and then drop them into a more sci-fi axe, a more sci-fi look, that sort of thing. It would be. I'd be down for that.
Yeah. Well, see, you say you've never played God of War, as a series, but also 2018, which is obviously the big one that got all the plaudits, because it's obviously been a PlayStation exclusive. But Jamie, just yesterday, there's an opportunity to add another game to your pile of shame list, and God of War is now on PC, available on Steam. So no excuse. Well, apart from funds, obviously, that's obviously a hindrance for all of us.
Well, I don't need both kidneys, but I saw your tweet about it yesterday. I had somehow missed the fact it was coming to PC. I think I had heard back along and then erased it, and And then you tweeted yesterday. I was like, oh, and immediately I went to Steam to look, and I'm sat there thinking, I don't need any more games. I bought a game yesterday.
God of War, Jamie. It's God of War.
I'm gonna have to, because I've wanted to play that. That's I've said to you before. There's a handful, and it is a small handful, because I have a real thing about exclusivity and all of that. And there was a small handful of games over the years that have made me think, I wish I had a PlayStation. And it's only ever been a case of my games library between PC and Xbox is massive anyway. Yeah. And I never really wanted to add another source of funneling my money out of my bank and into someone else's hands, basically. So, so I never went for a PlayStation. But every now and again, a game pops up. Horizon Zero Dawn was one of them. That made me... Spider-Man, obviously. I've talked about that at length and on every outlet I've ever talked to anyone on. Was the thing, and God of War was one of them. So yeah, it's gonna happen.
I think
it might
so.
take a while, but it's going to happen.
I think so. I mean, I think it's really, really awesome that they're now finally bringing a lot of the first party games to PC. And it was like, for the longest time, the fanboys were like, "Don't you dare ever bring your games to PC. It'll be the end of the console or something." Or it's like that, you know, they're for us. They're our little precious like Gollum. But you know, it's working incredibly well for Microsoft, right? They do, where possible, like day and date PC version and the console version.
Yep.
And I was reading about this earlier. Like Cory Barlog, the creative director on God of War 2018, and his studio head, I think, at Sony Santa Monica, the studio that did it now. He, I think, mentioned that like most of, if not all of, the first party studios at Sony were really pushing to get their games on PC, and I think that's pretty fantastic, because you thought, oh no, it's like it's like Nintendo, right? It's like you can only play them here. Like if you can play them elsewhere, there's no reason to get like a PlayStation or get a Nintendo console. And I can kind of see that for maybe Nintendo, but I think for PlayStation, bringing it to PC is such a great thing. And you know, Death Stranding made it to PC, I think, last year. So did Horizon Zero Dawn, which is utterly gorgeous. And that means that there's like hype and awareness now for the sequel to Horizon Zero Dawn coming out in like a couple of months, which is, I think, still PlayStation 5 exclusive. That may eventually also come to PC. But again, you're opening up your fan base to IPs that they were aware of, but maybe not would have bought hardware for. And it could potentially lead to people, probably won't, but it could potentially lead to people playing God of War 2018 and saying, this is incredible, Ragnarok is coming out on PS5 in a few months, I gotta play Ragnarok, but I don't want to wait for it to eventually come to PC like 3 years down the line. I want to play it now, so I'm going to try and get a PS5, although nobody can get a PS5 right now still, so
no.
It's kind of
like hen's teeth, but
they'll just go to the YouTube and watch the full playthroughs and just experience it that way, maybe.
It's the thing with exclusivity is that I'm never going to buy a console based off one game. I'm never going to do it. It says the man who buys an Xbox every year for Halo. But
well, that's Halo, so that's different. That's very special.
Exactly, and that's more because I say that I've always bought I got my first Xbox because of Halo. That was what swung me when I had been thinking about it for a while, and I get the Xbox because that's where most of my friend base plays, or for years did play. So it was always a case of, I want the console where I can play my games with my friends and play all the games that I want to play, like Halo and Gears and stuff. Mm-hmm. I'm not gonna see a game and think, oh, that looks really good. I'm buying a console to play that, and then what else do I play on it? I'll play the games that, I could already play all of these on there, and then in 6 months' time there'll be one game I can play on there that I won't play anywhere else. I know people who have PlayStations sat gathering dust until an exclusive, or an Xbox gathering dust until an exclusive. Yeah. Never wanted to do it. But I think if the company, especially, looking at Microsoft and the amount of studios that they've got their fingers in, particularly, that sounds terrible, but as in pies. Come on, brain, you can do it. If they can put that product in the hands of someone, who's going to buy their console, but also put it in the hands of someone who is sat playing it on PC, but they're still selling the game to them, so they're still making money. Yeah. It's a bigger audience. It's kind of a no-brainer. Mm. Exclusivity just hurts the fan base in as much as, like, there are so many games that I want to experience and I want to show my love for the devs and I want to be able to support, but I have erased entire franchises from my must-play list because I know that I'm not going to go out and buy a PlayStation anytime soon. If I had more money, if I had money to burn, I'd grab one and stick it on the shelf so I could play the exclusives when they pop up. Absolutely. Yeah. But I don't. I have to be somewhat sensible in this crazy world of adulting and paying bills and all the other boring stuff. So
such an inconvenience, that stuff, right?
I hate it. Yeah. It's just unnecessary. So, but yeah, so it's amazing that these games, because obviously, I've got a decent rig apart from needing a graphics card update, but they're even rarer than PS5s at the minute. And so it's nice to know that most stuff that comes out now, with the exception of the pocket planar dimension that is Nintendo, obviously, but that's fine. They've always done their own thing. Most stuff that comes out now, I'm probably going to be able to play it, which is great. So it just opens up a world of possibility.
Yeah. So obviously you mentioned like the Spider-Man games, which are phenomenal. Is there anything like what would be your must-haves from like maybe the first-party library on PlayStation that you'd like to see come out with obviously the two Spider-Man games, Miles Morales and Spider-Man Remastered?
It's hard because more and more of them have started to creep across. Like I always said, Kingdom Hearts was a big series that I'd like to lay hands on, but of course that's happened now. That's those are available on Xbox and PC.
And Final Fantasy VII Remake as well, that made it to PC as well, which was kind of huge. I believe the port wasn't the best, but it's still like a phenomenal like remake, like full remake. So it's a totally different experience now.
I've seen a lot of love for it. I have to shamefully admit, I've never played Final Fantasy. Any of them, apart from the number escapes me. 15, the MMO. I've played a reasonable amount of that and need 14, to get back to it. 14.
14, yeah.
14, that was it. See, you can tell I'm not on all cylinders this morning. But yeah, I played the MMO because I moved to that. When I moved away from WoW, and that's fantastic. But it is a game series I know a fair bit about and I've watched a lot of. I've got a friend who is a huge Final Fantasy fan, and I've spent a lot of weekends at his place, usually recovering from the night before, and watching him play through Final Fantasy, Metal Gear, that sort of. Metal Gear, again, would have been another big one, but again, we did actually get that come across eventually.
Yeah.
I think it's mostly Horizon's on PC, at least the first one. It's getting harder and harder to find titles that make me... and now with God of War coming across, because the good thing is once one comes across, you can kind of guarantee that at least at some point you're going to get a chance to play the other ones, or you can expect to be able to play, the later installments, even if it's a year, 2 years after the fact of everyone else playing it. It's probably going to hit.
Yeah.
So it's... And the reverse is same with the Xbox. Like, there are less and less titles now, because they're on PC, there are less and less titles now that I would say... If I was recommending to someone else, like it's hard not to say to someone, well, you'd be better off getting yourself a gaming PC. And I don't want to do the PC Master Race bit, but it's a brilliant point between the two. I've had people before say to me, which console should I get? I'm like, Christ, that's a loaded question. It depends what you want to play.
Yeah.
But now when people say like, I quite like Halo, but I quite like God of War. Like, what can I play? It's like, put your hands together because there is a way. So, but
it's true. It's because I guess right now, like if you're only interested in buying like a couple of consoles, it's really only the PS5 and the Nintendo where for the majority of the IPs, you can't play them anywhere else. But obviously that's changing a little bit with PS5. But if you wanted an Xbox as well, you would just say, well, just get a PC, because then you can play all of the Xbox catalog. You've got Game Pass PC now as well. And you've got Steam sales, which you know all too well. how much you spend on Steam sales and how good they are.
my Steam library is currently, and bearing in mind that I only really started picking up games on Steam in like the early months of 2020 when I finally built my rig. Yeah. I had a handful of Steam games from when I had my last sort of like decent powered laptop, but I hadn't built a rig for years. I think the last gaming rig I built was, I don't know, it was like a P3 or something. It was many moons ago that I did this, and I've been console since. So, but my Steam library is currently sat at, I think it's like, it's just about to hit 300 games on Steam.
Oh my God.
And I've played maybe 10% of those properly. and the rest are just stuff that comes up. It's so cheap. I mean, I've got to while it's there, because I'll play that, and then you look at it 2 years later and think, I haven't touched it.
Well, that was going to be my next question on this particular subject. Is okay, like Steam wishlists and Steam sales. Everybody goes nuts because the sales are just ridiculous. Is it a case of, oh, I don't want to miss the game at that price, but I'll probably never play it, but I might play it, and I've got it for £5 as opposed to £30 or a couple of pounds for a lot of the, like, especially the indie games. You're thinking, I just want to have that there on the off chance in 10 years' time I decide to have a free minute and then I'm going to boot it up and play it.
Yeah,
but you're wasting money than it's not an investment.
There's almost a hoarder's mentality, I think, for me anyway, that comes into it as well. Because sometimes you see games come up, like I grabbed Nukem 3D. It popped up on there one day. It was like 30p, right. And I'm like, oh crap! And I haven't played that since I bought it. I bought it because I played it to death back in the day.
Yeah. And
there was kind of I want that. I want to own Nukem 3D again because it was very important to me when I was 13. And I bought that. And I haven't touched it. Playing. Yeah. I'm just like, I'm probably never ever going to play it either. But other games, there are things that you grab because they're, cheap as chips, and you grab them on the spec. You just think, well, that looks vaguely interesting. And then other stuff, like I bought Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, the enhanced editions when they came out, but I waited, I hung on for a little bit and bought them on a sale. I think I got the pair for like a tenner, and those are games that I love and will be playing. The only reason I've stopped myself is I promised myself that when I finally play them, I will play them for a long play YouTube series because they're brilliant games and they deserve that. Yeah. And I promised it to myself, and I just haven't made the content, so I haven't played them. And every day now when I log in and look at Steam, and I think, maybe today's the day because I really want to play Baldur's Gate. But eventually.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So speaking of obviously PCs, still on this topic a little bit. Like at the moment, PCs are like the best way to experience VR with the bevy of headsets and things like that which are available, whether it be the Oculus, whether it be wasn't there like a Steam one or something like that, or there's the HTC Vive.
Yeah.
And they offer incredibly high fidelity, and alternatively, the Oculus Quest 2 gives probably the best of both worlds because it's fully wireless. You can play games. I think it installs it directly onto like the flash memory on board memory for the headset, and then that's like the dream, right? To be completely untethered. Yeah. And be able to play like Resident Evil 4, which just came out for it, and Beat Saber without being getting tangled up in a cable.
I would probably go up myself trying to play Beat Saber with a cable, I think.
Totally. And obviously you can use the Questlink cable to get like the higher oomph from your PC. Now, our next topic is the announcement and the spec reveal of PlayStation VR 2, which is for the PlayStation 5. Now, none of us own VR headsets, but we've tried them, and I really badly wanted at the time the original PlayStation VR because I'd tried it at EGX and some expos and stuff like that, and I really liked it. I thought it was super immersive, although the graphics take a major hit because the PS4 doesn't have anywhere near the fidelity potential of a gaming rig and where VR is now. I mean, you look at Half-Life Alyx, it just looks phenomenal. However, the specs of the PlayStation VR 2 looks amazing, and they've fully redone the controller, so it's much more like the Vive controllers or the other controllers where it's two motion controls with joysticks and the sensors for rotation and stuff like that. It looks like a proper next generation VR build, and they not only did they drop that news that the PSVR 2 is real and it is coming eventually, I don't know when, but the developers also gave a little teaser trailer for what I think is going to be one of the flagship experiences, and it is the IP of Horizon Zero Dawn, and it's called Horizon, I think Call of the Mountain it's called, and it's a dedicated, fully bespoke VR experience in the world of Horizon Zero Dawn, and the fidelity looked phenomenal. It looked insane. Oh, what's your thoughts on VR and this particular VR experience potential?
I've always loved the idea of VR. I mean, I don't think there's a gamer out there who doesn't at least love the idea of VR in some way, because, immersion is everything. And so I was always a little bit disappointed with the VR experiences I have had, just because it never quite... There was some amazing stuff that had been done, and even little things like the... is it Job Simulator or Work Simulator, where you play as a wee robot and these little robots pop up and you have
yeah. Job
stuff
Simulator.
Like that. Yeah. Like, loads of fun. And I've watched a lot of that being played. I've not tried that on myself, but looks like loads of fun. But I always, you always want to put on and just be in the world. You kind of want the whole Ready Player One type experience of that's the so. But yeah, the specs on this look amazing, and that teaser trailer for Horizon was just, although it's a very short snippet. You've got obviously the wee intro and then a very short snippet of footage, but just that moment when the
tall neck just walks overhead.
Yeah, the saucer head Diplodocus was what I had in the back of my skull, but I can't remember its name. But it steps over and all that sort of, that looks...
Yeah. It's a Jurassic Park moment, that, right? When Alan Grant and Ellie Sattler see the Diplodocus in the field for the very first time. It's like you stand up and you take the glasses off and you're like, holy shit. It's a moment like that. It's very, very cool.
It does look fantastic. And like I said, the specs on it, and why God bless two monitors, because I never remember any of that. But the specs on it, I mean, it does look absolutely fantastic. Like it's got a hell of a tech rundown. So
yeah,
we're getting closer. We're definitely getting closer to that world of that world of virtual reality. But I think
I'm really hoping.
The one thing.
Sorry.
No, crack on.
No, I was going to say I'm really hoping it is a proper VR game, like a Half-Life Alyx or something, and it's not just one of these experiences which is quite short, it's quite limited, it's almost like a safari tour through the world. I mean, that would be wonderful in itself, just an on-rails kind of taking you through the world of Horizon Zero Dawn in a VR context. That would be pretty cool, but I want like a proper VR game in the Horizon. Like, you one of the main weapons, if not the main weapon, is your bow and arrow. So if we've got full fidelity controllers, hand controllers, I want to properly do the pulling back the bowstring and releasing it. Apparently they've got little joystick knuckles on them as well, so that shouldn't hinder movement and things like that, like pressing forward to run and this kind of stuff and spinning around. I want it to be like a proper game, and I really hope it is a game. So I would imagine they'll want to. I'm hoping that they'll show more at E3, but I don't know. Like when it comes to E3, they usually never talk about VR because it's so niche. So it might be a separate thing. It might just be its own thing, or they might include it as part of their E3 kind of presentation. Although Sony aren't really doing E3 presentations anymore. They do their state of plays, but it's like a big state of play around the E3 time. Like the E3 is kind of dying away as to the big conferences now. But I really hope that they either include it as part of a big conference sort of reveal around E3 time, or maybe it's a dedicated VR experience where it's just, okay, this is PSVR, here's a blowout of all of the media and details about it, and this is going to be this is the reason to get a PlayStation VR 2, which will probably be more expensive than a PlayStation 5, or at least the same price as a PlayStation 5, right? It's going to be quite expensive, probably.
It's not going to be cheap. It's definitely not going to be cheap. But I mean, that's exactly what I was going to say, was that I want VR to have more games as opposed to more tours or shooting ranges or even stuff like, I mean, Beat Saber, and again, I've not tried it, I've watched people play it, mostly because you forever see on Facebook, like, amazing Beat Saber run, 100 plus, A, and every emoji under the sun. And it looks like great fun, but it's the same, in the same way that Guitar Hero was great fun. It's a great thing to do with your friends and have a laugh or sit down, jam out for half an hour, but it's not in the traditional sense and the way I think of it, a gaming experience. It's a different type of, it's a different type of entertainment. Yeah. Nothing wrong with it whatsoever, but I want ground up VR complete AAA titles. Yes. So all that joy I got the first time I played Skyrim, and wandered through this. I don't want them to drop Skyrim on, although they have, but I think Skyrim will be remade until it just crumbles to dust. Yeah. I hear now though that if you fire up Skyrim and you can find a highly polished surface, you can play Thomas Was Alone on it in game. So there we go.
Wow.
Because bless him, Mike Biffle has ported Thomas Was Alone to every system under the sun as well. Not that I'm complaining. I love Thomas Was Alone, but I never stop giving him crap for it online because it just amuses me. Yeah, but that's the thing. Like Skyrim, and now as far as I believe they've put Skyrim on VR, which is great and fine. But imagine building an Elder Scrolls adventure from scratch, in VR that you could actually play like you played Skyrim and stuff. Like that's what I want to see more of happening, and that's what's going to tempt me towards VR more. It's difficult for me as well because I do need VR games. I can, there are issues of accessibility for those with mobility issues and things like that. So I need VR games that I can play sat down, more than anything, for if I'm going to play for extended periods. So there's that to consider as well. So, but we definitely seem to be inching ever closer to it, which is really exciting because I can't wait for the day when I can just sit, pull down, and then go start headbutting trolls or whatever else it is that you can do.
Yeah, and especially that wonderful little room of yours, which has got all these amazing little collectibles and things in it. If you start thrashing around trying to kill skeletons in VR, it's poor Jack Skellington in the back there is going to be not happy. It's going to be disarray and chaos. So you need like a big like empty space to do proper like fully immersive VR, and it's very niche.
It's a concern. Alan did mention to me because he has got a VR setup which doesn't see a lot of use, and he did mention he wants to send it over because he wants to see me play Phasmophobia VR.
So do I.
And yeah, I mean, I want to try it because I love Phas, but I have this image of sort of putting the headset on and playing the game and then taking it off and just looking around at carnage all around me. It's just laid waste to the media area. So be interesting.
Yeah, man. Okay, so we're both kind of excited to see where PSVR goes, but so our next topic is a little bit of a sad one, but I wanted to highlight it anyway, and it's the passing of UK developer legend Paul Mclaughlin. So I assume that so many people out there don't actually know who Paul Mclaughlin is, and I wanted to raise it because he was one of the original game artists from legendary developer Lionhead Studios, and before that it was Bullfrog. So anybody who doesn't know who they are, that was Peter Molyneux's infamous two legendary studios. Like Bullfrog Games and Lionhead Studios were, without doubt, probably my all-time favorite studios. Growing up, their catalog of games were just outstanding. They were pioneering. Games like Fable, games like Syndicate, games like Black and White, Populous, SimCity, Theme Park. Sorry, did they do Theme Park? I think they might have done Theme Park. Magic Carpet, if you remember as well. This was royalty within the UK gaming space, and it is such a shame to hear of the passing of this bona fide titan of UK game development. I'm not going to go into too much detail as to the reasons or anything like that, but just wanted to highlight the outpouring of support from industry veterans and stuff like that to give their condolences and things like that, and obviously pay respects to this man who had worked on Dungeon Keeper and so many amazing games in the gaming space, in the gaming history, and obviously it gives us the opportunity to kind of reminisce a little bit about Bullfrog and about Lionhead, Jamie. So, what's your earliest, I guess, maybe thoughts, fondest memories of like Bullfrog games or Lionhead or Peter Molyneux's output, and of course Paul McLaughlin's output as well, because he was the artist on a lot of these seminal titles.
Yep. My earliest introduction to Bullfrog that I remember was Syndicate on the Amiga 500 Plus, which was...
What a machine. I was going to say console there, but it's a computer.
I absolutely adored that game. I also just realised it is actually in EA Play. I only found that out a couple of days ago, so that's getting downloaded and replayed. Because, who needs time? But, but Syndicate I played to death, and then when I got my PC, Dungeon Keeper I played for hours.
Yeah.
And also Theme Hospital. I had a lot of fun with Theme Hospital, but Dungeon Keeper in particular blew me away because I loved the possession mechanic in it, so that you could build your dungeon, but then you could also jump into the body of one of your little minions and move around. And it was just, that game did so many cool things that I hadn't seen before that just were absolutely fantastic. And then going into Xbox, Fable, the Fable franchise is one of my favorite RPG franchises of all time.
Yeah.
Fable 1, 2, and 3, I played all the way through, every possible permutation, good and evil runs. Just absolutely adore the entire series, and it is. I think Peter Molyneux is such a prominent public face that it is, like you said, there are going to be people who don't necessarily really, like the average gamer who don't really necessarily know who Paul McLaughlin was.
Yeah.
Because he was a behind-the-scenes driving force more than anything.
Yes.
But that's a man who has worked on just some of the games of not just my youth, but my entire gaming career, I suppose, for want of a better word. So yeah, it was really sad, but by God, what a back catalogue legacy sort of thing.
It's a huge legacy, isn't it? It's really,
absolutely
really
fantastic.
Something. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of right there with you. My earliest experience of like Bullfrog games is probably Syndicate as well, and I would love to see that come back. Any XCOM style like format would be so good, because it is, for anybody who doesn't know, this is we're going back like early 90s now. This is like way long ago. It is this it's a real-time strategy game, sort of, and it's set in this dystopian science fiction Blade Runner like kind of world, and you're a squad of like synthetic super agents, and you have all these different missions, like escort missions, assassination missions, and it was just wonderful. Like the art in it, I remember being incredibly vivid and just wonderful. So I'm assuming that at the time I wasn't aware that would be Paul's work, but it obviously is or was. And I also remember the follow-up, Syndicate Wars, was the first time that the series had gone like proper 3D, because the original, if you remember, it was a fixed camera isometric, but Syndicate Wars allowed you to rotate the camera. And not only that, it implemented like a proper physics engine, so you could like destroy buildings and and destroy the cars, and they would just crumble and destroy, and it was just awesome. And I also remember you could modify your like body parts of your agents, and you got to see the exoskeleton, and it was like the Terminator, the T-800 Terminator, just like breathing there. There's this really menacing breathing. I remember that so vividly. It's so clear in my mind, that modification screen for each of your 4 agents. I thought this was like really something kind of seminal at its time, and God, I loved that game. I loved it so much. I'm trying to think, did Bullfrog, who did Fade to Black? Was that Bullfrog as well? I remember the flashback sequel, Fade to Black. Was that another developer, or was that also Bullfrog?
I cannot for the life of me remember.
I can't remember either. I'll need to kind of do research, but anyway, getting segued here. But yeah, God, Bullfrog Games, Lionhead Studios. Man, what a legacy! What an absolute legacy! And I still get a little bit bitter about the fact that studio, Lionhead Studios, had to get closed and shut down, and it just no longer exists anymore. It's such a loss. But saying that, Playground Games, behind the Forza Horizon series, they're making the next Fable. I'm incredibly excited to see where that goes, and I'm also incredibly curious because thankfully Playground is a British studio. Obviously, Lionhead Studios are very, very much a British studio, and Fable is always renowned for its British humour and comedy and getting British humour, British comedy, kind of like a Blackadder-esque vibe and sense of humour to everything. And now I'm really hoping that they still keep hold of that tone for the next Fable. But I'm excited to see where that goes. And of course, the legacy of Fable will continue even without Lionhead Studios.
Yeah, I want to see from the new Fable. I want to see the art style stay and the aesthetic stay, and but updated, sure, and all that. And also, like you say, the tone of the. I mean, one of the things I remember is I was playing the first Fable and hearing that your health is running low, right, from the Guildmaster. And then in Fable 2, there is a little tiny bit where you come upon a note talking about the death of the previous Guildmaster and how he was found with your health is running low carved into his chest by an angry. And I was like, because it was something that everyone complained about, much like the whole, hey, listen with Navi or Cameo with the you'll find me in the whatnot. It becomes one of those memes. And Fable was quite self-aware. I think like Lionhead were quite self-aware at that point, and they just leaned into it, and that tickled me, and it's something I've always remembered. And Fable 2 was my favourite of the entire series. I loved all of them, but Fable 2 for some reason was the one that I just really connected with, and I played so much of that game, hour upon hour.
Yeah. And
so, like we said, like just an amazing legacy to leave behind, and definitely someone who has influenced an awful lot and will. I mean, Fable's part of the zeitgeist now, so it'll. That's why I'm excited to see what Playground do with it. There are bits that I want them to retain because I think Fable has influenced a lot that's come after it, and I think it'd be nice to see that sort of retained for the future.
It's one of those games which was so synonymous with the developer who made it. And it makes you wonder, can another developer retain that and capture that? Like you can't imagine a Metal Gear Solid game without Kojima.
No.
You can't imagine oh god, I had another game there. Yeah, actually this takes us on to our next topic. You can't imagine a Hitman game without IO Interactive. Like the two are too intrinsically involved and entwined and make the DNA of the game. That you wonder, okay, well, without the original developers and without the original, I guess, like studio ethos around the game, will the next game by another developer like land? Will it feel like Fable? And I think they probably will manage to capture it, but I'm still like super kind of apprehensive, but really curious and excited at the same time.
Yeah, it's going to be weird. It's because there's so much that goes into obviously the development of a game that it's not just about a developer can come along, they can mimic the art style, and they can hire the voice cast from the previous one, and they can write the same sort of jokes, and still completely fail to hit the mark. And even if they make something, I mean, they could make an incredible RPG that just doesn't feel like Fable. Like there's always that risk.
Yes.
So it's not even about it's never about the not trusting or respecting the work of one developer. It's just that, as you said, when one particular developer becomes so intrinsically intertwined with the genetic makeup, so to speak, of a game, to then hand it to someone else and say, right, you do that now, there's always a risk that they're not quite gonna get it. I mean, you're fighting against nostalgia and deep-seated love for, established franchise and stuff. So it's risky, but I'm really excited to see what they do with it. And I think they'll probably make a brilliant game. It's just whether they make a Fable game is the bit that will sort of worry me until it's in my hands, but we shall see.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many elements that you can checklist off that, okay, this game needs to have this but in order to be this style of game. But it's the secret sauce, right? It's the magic, the fairy dust, or however you want to kind of call it, that makes the game from that studio. And I'm apprehensive but excited as well.
I think they'll be fine as long as they make sure that at the beginning of the game you can plant an acorn that will eventually grow into a tree.
We never got that.
He'll never live that down. Molyneux will never live that down.
I know. Just imagine if that mechanic did actually happen, people were just taking the piss and planting acorns everywhere, like inside a building. They plant an acorn.
Ruined the landscape.
You'd ruin the landscape, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I would have gone. I don't know if you've ever watched anything by Let's Game It Out, but there's a guy who just deliberately goes in and tries to break games with their own mechanics.
Right.
And that would have been interesting to try and grind Fable to a halt through its own attempt to grow a forest in the middle of a small town in a well. So, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, man. Good times reminiscing about Lionhead Studios and Bullfrog games as well, of course. So, okay, our final topic of the show is kind of like a 2-for-1. You remember last week's episode, I was gushing about Hitman 3. And how amazing it is as a package where if you had, I think it was the season passes, or if you had previously purchased the Hitman 1 and 2 games, they come over into Hitman 3 as a package, and then they all get kind of upgraded, and you can play all of them with the new game engine, which is still phenomenal. Every time I say that out loud, it's still phenomenal. So big news on Xbox Game Pass, and now Jamie has no excuse but to play these games. The entire Hitman collection, Hitman 1, Hitman 2, Hitman 3, is all coming to Game Pass. And Jamie's just like, oh my God, I have no hope
I
ever.
Saw your tweet. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm thrilled to bits because it's a game series I do love, so I'm looking forward to playing them. But I just started to catch up a little bit. I've spent the past week trying out various games from Game Pass that I've had on my radar in a bid to... I'm going to be doing a wee series of videos on them of just trying games for little short bursts and seeing which ones I fall in love with.
Yeah.
And I've tried loads. I was like, I'm starting to chip away at the pile. And then you just hear the reversing of this beep, beep, beep of a tipper truck coming in, and Microsoft buries me in new titles. So, but I'm
the driver of the truck as well, with my head out the window.
Oh,
going, hey, delivery for Jamie.
Cackling madly as you come, because like I said, I saw the tweet and I was like, and I was equal parts like, yeah, and then shit, I'm never sleeping again. So
exactly, I know,
but very excited.
That'll be one I think will be hilarious for you and Al to stream, where you just like you play it and you both comment over like what's happening, because it's so hilarious. Like the emergent fun you can have with that game is so fun. But also as part of obviously that amazing like news that is coming to Game Pass, they also announced that the Year 2 content is kicking off on this coming Thursday. And part of that, there's a new roguelike game mode coming as part of it. But also the big news is that they are finally releasing Hitman VR for PC. Now, Hitman 3 launched with just PlayStation VR support, and it wasn't really great. It was a bit kind of janky. It wasn't really the fantasy of a Hitman VR game, but apparently Hitman VR is coming to PC, and it's not just Hitman 3, it's Hitman 1, Hitman 2, and Hitman 3. You can play all of them in VR with the dual controllers of your high-end VR system, so you can properly do fisticuffs with the enemies, or you can properly pick up a banana or a muffin and throw it at people. And do you remember ages ago, I think it was on our Christmas show last year, I was telling you, like, the promise of VR for Hitman is like you could tap an enemy on the shoulder and walk around them, and then do the misdirection thing, and then pop them in the face. So that is fully realized now by the sounds of it, and that is just so cool. I love that idea that it's a proper. Again, we're talking about proper VR games rather than like a cut down weird experience that doesn't quite do justice to VR. And it seems like IO Interactive are like, oh yeah, here you go, guys. This is the full proper VR for every single Hitman game that we've done. Well, of the new ones, of the modern ones, Hitman 1, 2, and 3, that you can play all the missions in VR, and that's a ton of missions and replayability.
That's a lot of content. I played. Yeah, I think I mentioned before. I played the first one of the first of the new trilogy. Weird, because the older Hitman games I played a lot back in the day. I played the original 2 on PC. Or the original 1 for sure on PC, and then PlayStation and Xbox, and I've just played through a lot of them over the years. But my way of playing Hitman is, generally speaking, just to go in and think, right, this guy has to die, and what's the most interesting possible? And I kind of forget that there's anything else to it. It's like, oh, there's a story in this one. No, I'm not, and which is not entirely fair to the devs, because obviously they put a lot of work into it. And I have played your stories, and they're great. But also, sometimes it's one of those games that you can just think, I'm going to load this up and I'm going to see if I can complete the entire mission only killing people with a pencil. I'm John Wick now, that sort of thing. So yeah, I am very excited to get my teeth into the trilogy proper. I think it's the 20th it drops on Games Pass.
Yeah, I think it's something like that. Yeah.
So and that's my day. That day, that'll just be killing people for fun. Which, if the NSA is listening, it's not what it sounds like. But I know as gamers we get a bad rep for reveling in violence at times, and it sounds like. But the thing is, the joy of it is that it's not real and it's without consequence, and it's ridiculous to a degree. Like, in my real life, I am not stealthy. I can't sneak up behind someone and go at them, even if I wanted to, because they'll hear me lumbering up behind them, turn around and punch me in the face.
I don't know, maybe with your Guinness loungewear, you could disguise yourself as a bus stop or something.
With that Guinness loungewear, I can disguise myself as a shadow. It's just perfect. But yeah, you get to do those things that you see in movies and TV, and the moments that make you go, badass. And that's what I've always said. Gaming for me has always been largely about moments. And Hitman's one of those series that gives you those moments, the bit where you do a thing and go, that was cool. I did that. That was, yeah. And I'll never lose that wonder when I play a game and I get to do something that's just nifty in the middle, and just something that I'm never going to get anywhere near in real life. And again, not that I want to go around being a killer for hire. It's not something on my list of things to do. But I've watched a lot of films and TV series and cartoons with badasses over the years, and you get to be the badass for a while. So, and this game gives it to you in spades, or this series of games gives it to you in spades. So, yeah, but it is more games. And I have so little time.
I know, at some point you just have to kind of give up on the pile of shame and just play what you want to play at any given time. And for you, it's usually Phasmophobia and nothing else.
There's a lot of Phas. I will accept that. But I have, like I said, I've been digging into the pile a bit. I've fallen in love with a couple of games I've tried. I've given up immediately on a couple of other ones. Like, it just happens. Like, no, everything's going to click. I've been playing some Green Hell across on Steam because I thought, why not buy a new game? But I've been playing some Green Hell with Alan multiplayer. It's a survival game, and it is absolutely phenomenal. So that's going to become a new obsession, I think. So yeah, so I fill my time with various nonsense, but I will make time for Hitman. I will be installing that as soon as it drops, and I will make time for Hitman because I've been wanting to play that for so long. So
yeah, and we'll have an episode where we talk about Jamie's exploits during Hitman and the creative things that he's managed to pull off, and ways in which probably has backfired on him as well.
The world's most inept assassin. It's going to be interesting.
That should be like a spin-off game of your Agent 48 or something, and then you're just like really bad at being a hitman.
Joe, I would play that. I would absolutely play it. I have a bit of a love for those games that are a little self-deprecating about video games in general. There's a handful of them out there. I mean, the one that springs to mind, although some of it's a wee bit coarse and not necessarily great, is like the Leisure Suit Larry series and things like that. So you've got these games which have got that element of parody to them. And even like Nukem 3D, there were bits in that were very much taking the proverbial out of the established hard as nails can't be killed protagonist and stuff. So yeah, I'd quite like to play as Agent 48 or Agent 46, the guy who goes in first and can't get it done, and 47 gets sent in afterwards. I think that'd be it would be you set up your hit, and then it fails miserably in the first 2 minutes, and the game is actually about how you escape without getting beaten down by security guards. I'd play that.
Yeah, I think that sounds awesome. So, quick recap on what else is coming to Game Pass. What else do we have? We have The Outer Wilds, the lauded kind of masterpiece indie game, is coming to cloud, console, and PC. We have Garagoa coming to cloud, console, and PC. Ember is coming to cloud, console, and PC, Jamie. Remember you were talking about that last week?
I have played that.
Yeah. We've got Spelunky 2, the Mass Effect Legendary Collection, The Pedestrian, and Anacrusis is also coming to console and PC as well. So that's it, guys. That's it for another week. Jamie, it's been a blast again, man. Thank you so much.
As always, a pleasure.
Everybody, thank you so much for lending us your eyeballs and your ears for episode 66, Order 66 of the Weekend Catch-Up Club podcast. It's been absolutely wonderful. If you are a audio listener or you are a VOD viewer, then please follow the channel, subscribe, leave a comment, let us know how we're doing, and let us also know what are your favourite gaming highlights of the year so far, and just chat about absolutely anything. We usually reply to as much stuff as we possibly can. But anyway, until now, that is it for another week. Take care, and we'll see you again soon. Bye.